Zombie apocalypse.
Good day, BTBTED second year students who are currently taking Educ 5, which is the Technology for Teaching and Learning 1. By the way, this is your course facilitator. This is Sir Kenji E. Merenciano. Today, we will be having an asynchronous mode of instructional delivery where I will be presenting our next topic for this course, which is all about the role and importance of ICT. ICT class stands for Information and Communication Technology in the field of education. So without further ado, here it is. So the topic that I'll be presenting is about the role of ICT, which stands for Information Communication Technology in the field of education. Here the table of contents so that you are guided with the flow of the topics or parts of the topics. First, I'm going to discuss the importance of computers. What is it all about? Second is the introduction to ICT or a brief overview. Third is the definition of ICT and what are the examples of it. And the fifth one talks about the impact or the importance of ICT in education, its benefits, and aside from its benefits, its challenges. And aside from the challenges, it also includes the drawbacks of ICT. And the last one is the executive summary or the conclusion about the ICT. So let's start. How important is computer? Computers are used in everyday life for personal, official, social, educational, and recreational use. Computer is an electronic device used in almost every field, even where it's most unexpected. That is why this age is called as the era of IT. And now we cannot imagine a world without computers. It is made up of two things. One is the hardware and the other one is a software. All physical components of computer like keyboard, mouse, monitor comes with under the hardware, whereas all the programs and languages used by the computer are called software. So in other words, software is a language of instruction for computers, while hardware talks about the keyboard, the mouse. These are examples of hardware. These days, computers are the tools for not only engineers and scientists, but also they are being used by millions of people around the world. Computers are not only sold in markets at a large scale, but also transactions and records are maintained by the help of it in most of the field nowadays. Today, the computer is indispensable, and its presence has become very important and necessary in our daily life. And it has become easier for us to do many operations and activities. As I've said, computer is an electronic device that receives information in data. Automatically, it stores and retrieves it anytime and uses it in a useful manner. The computer class converts different types of numbers and solves intractable mathematical equations very quickly and with high accuracy. That's why we need a clean PC build. The computer was invented in the second half of the 20th century and now it has become the backbone of life. So, thus, the ability to use computer effectively has become an essential part of everyone's education and has redefined literacy to include the ability to use computers and not only just to be able to read and write. So, in other words, the use of computers in the field of education is one of its most important benefits in the daily human life. It is one of the most important educational tools used by teachers and students. The computer is used in the field of education in schools and universities, where hard disks and magnetic disks are used to explain the lessons, and drawings and films are used to deliver information to students, as well as the students retain the information in order to retrieve it at a later time. The computer has restructured the education system. Schools, colleges, and almost all educational institutions use at least one computer each sem, and many colleges and universities offer online degrees to students. So many schools and colleges around the world are now using computer and internet technologies to teach students digitally and creatively, as the use of the computer in the classroom unleashes creativity and imagination among students. Through computer programs, you can learn more deeply and more accurately, such as drawing tools, spreadsheets, music, video lectures, and PowerPoint presentations. So this has led to the creation of new models of work in the field of education, such as small classes, smart classrooms, and now we have the digital classrooms. ICT class stands for Information and Communication Technology. ICT is a scientific, it's a technological and engineering discipline and management technique used in handling information, its application, and association with social, economic, and cultural matters. That is according to UNESCO. ICT are basically information handling tools, a varied set of equipment, applications, and services that are used to produce, store, process, distribute, and exchange information. The old ICT, we have the radio, television, telephone, tapes and cassettes, or video cassettes. Now, in the new ICT, we're dealing with computers, satellite, wireless technology, in the internet. At present, we are now in the era of Industry 4.0, wherein the information is digital and we have the so-called Internet of Things. UNESCO defines ICT as the scientific, technological, and engineering disciplines and the management of technique used to handle, transmit information with men and machines. When we say class, uh, un, UNESCO, UNESCO stands for, okay, wait, UNESCO is the term which means the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. It is a specialized agency of the United Nations aimed at promoting world peace and security through international cooperation by means of education, arts, sciences, and culture. It was founded in 1945 as the successor to the League of Nations International Committee on Intellectual Cooperation. According to UNESCO, as I've said, ICT is a scientific, technological, and engineering disciplines. That means to handle and transmit information. According to the Digital Video Technical Glossary, ICT is the computing and communication facilities and features that support teaching, learning, and a range of activities in education. ICT, which is now broadly used in educational world. Teacher, student, administrator, and every people related to education are popularly use ICT. Teacher use ICT for making teaching learning process easy and interesting. A competent teacher has several skills and techniques for providing successful teaching. According to the official IBM or the International Business Machine Glossary, ICT is the use of computer-based information systems and communication system to transmit, store data, and information. Here are the example of ICTs. We have the common, we have the laptop, projectors, mobile devices, MP3, this is for music, ebook readers, and tablets. For the other ICTs, we have video conferencing, which is now used during the pandemic as a means of communication or exchange of ideas, meetings, business meetings. We also have the audio and video CDs and DVDs. Podcasts is also an avenue to broadcast information, or in other words, it's an internet audio broadcast. And we also have educational software. Software used for designing. We have the CAD for other purposes. Computation, we have the MATLAB. So these are example of educational software. We also have internet-based ICTs and channels as the mode of communication. We have the email or the electronic mail. It's a system of sending written messages electronically from one computer to another. So email class is an abbreviation for electronic mail. We also have the chat, text messaging. Skype is a web service or a video service application. Okay. Um, it's a brand name for an application for communicating with other people over the internet using videos or voice call. So before we have the video call in Facebook, um, in other platforms, we first have the Skype. It's a mode of communicating people all around the world using the internet by means of video or voice calls. So here we also have social networking. Facebook is a popular social media learning platforms. We have the Twitter, Instagram, and also have blogs. Okay. So when we say blog class, it's a regularly updated website or web page, typically one run by an individual or small group that is written in an informal or conversational style. In other words, it's a website on which someone writes about personal opinions, activities, and experiences. That's why in this course, you will be creating your own blog, your own website wherein you're going to express about possibly your learning journey in TTL1 or your experiences in learning experiences in your field of discipline, such as in garments fashion and design, and probably in food service management. Okay. Nowadays, a blog is regularly updated website or web page and can be either be used for personal use or fulfill a business need. Okay. What is the impact or how ICT changed the lives of many, particularly in the field of education? No nation can develop without ICT-based education. It is regarded as the fuel of development. Now we're living in technology and this digital age. We are dependent, or we understand and know how important ICT base, particularly in the teaching learning process. ICT-based education is essential ingredient in developing new ideas in the course content, in your topics, and probably the curriculum, in the creation of materials, IEC materials. We have now the digital ICT base, and your strategies or methods for teaching and learning. Students need ICT for pursuing academic studies, whereas teachers need ICT based information for teaching. That's why during the pandemic, technology, particularly ICT, is essential tool or ingredient for us, for the students to learn and to learn and appreciate topics, and for teachers in the delivery of their instructions. It's either in a form of asynchronous and asynchronous modality, using um, applications and other digital resources. ICT has made more easier to process and disseminate knowledge. It has increased the efficiency of the knowledge professionals in organizing and managing knowledge. Now, information is the tip of our fingers. Unlike before, during our time, we need a student, we need to go to the library and look for a certain reference just to get the definition or meaning of a particular term. Now, we can easily access information because of this ICT tools. It has saved the space of library by creating the library materials in digital forms or formats. What are the benefits or advantage of ICT in education? It extends learning opportunities. It now uh, in a traditional setting, there should be the presence of a teacher or a faculty to deliver his or her instruction. Now, with the use of ICT, it promotes independent learning, wherein students can learn at their own pace and time. The role of the faculty are facilitators. They will just provide you salient points through in a form of topics or lecture notes for you to read and consume. Another thing is access to global learning resources and information. Now, we can access various articles, uh, chunks of information of a topic of interest through internet or search different forms of search engines or through a world wide web. And through ICT, it makes learning interesting and enjoyable. It improves your presentation of a topic and the standards. And it can serve multiple audiences. Yeah, there are numerous ways on how you can present your topic. Okay, you can communicate to other people, not just only in the traditional setting. It's uniform quality of content. And the last one is collaboration with other students globally. Because ICT promotes collaboration. You can exchange information, help one another to solve a particular problem. Let's say a research. So there are different softwares, applications that can be used or collaborated digital tools. And let us now proceed. It's the benefits of ICT to students. Here, students can learn as individuals and not as a group. It higher quality lessons through greater collaboration between teachers and planning and preparing their resources. It also develop your writing skills with the use of applications or software like Grammarly, Killbot. We also have paraphrasing tool and any forms that helps in grammar and or developing your writing skills. Next is encouragement of independent and active learning and self-responsibility for learning and self-confidence. Plus, technology enhanced setting more stimulating. It motivates students. It's an effective tool or or way of engaging students to learn and appreciate the lessons compared to in a traditional room. Computer use during lessons motivates students to continue learning outside of school hours. The next is the benefits of ICT to teachers. First, it facilitates sharing of resources, expertise, and advice of different platforms for us to use information or resources intended for our delivery of instruction. Second, with the use of ICT, it helps gain confidence and enthusiasm because the information is easy to access and navigate or control. Okay. Next is easier planning and preparation of lessons and designing material. It's access to up-to-date pupil and school data anywhere and anytime. Because using ICT, students learn at their own pace, anywhere and anytime. Next is the enhancement of professional image. And the last one is access to quality training resources and keeping skills updated. Now let us proceed to the benefits of ICT to parents. We have web service tool like Edmodo, Google Classroom, wherein we can communicate with uh, uh, teachers. Like for example, in Edmodo, one of the interesting feature is you can communicate with parents. The teacher can notify and inform the progress of their child or children. Okay, by means of this software application. If it can also it can help monitor the progress and development of the students, and later the teacher will inform the status of their child. Okay. It has higher quality student reports, more legible, more detailed, and better presented. Next is we have greater access to more accurate attendance. Increased knowledge of children's learning and capabilities owing to increase in learning activity situated at homes. In other words, parents would more likely to be engaged in the school community. Since we know the benefits, the impacts of ICT, uh, at this present time, there are also challenges ahead or experienced by most of the students, faculty, and even parents. First is the inadequacy of facilities. Um, because computers and other forms of ICT are expensive. And because of this inadequacy, students can not easy to learn. Because there are schools, there are other institutions with well, wherein they experience lack of facilities as a vital tool for them to learn and appreciate the topics, particularly in the laboratory. If there's lack of the reason why there is lack of facilities because of the cost of implementation and maintenance. The third is the reluctance to use ICT, and there's a need for retooling or upgrade of skills for teachers in using computers. Based on the data, there's still a number of teachers or faculty who are not versed or savvy in the use of computer. Next is lack of internet access and connection. This is very relevant, and we experience this in our area. We sometimes during the online class we experience internet issues. So particularly for those who are living in a rural area, where there is a limited access to internet, and also the frequent power interruptions or brownout in in our area. Next is the outdated learning methods and curriculum, and the general challenges for some is the security of system and data, wherein hackers, system crash and virus, and lost stolen information and even the password. Because of this, there's a need to improve the infrastructure of ICT, hopefully in our school, because of these hackers and virus. Aside from that, we have the drawbacks of ICT. Dropping grammar and replacing sentences with abbreviations from sending SMS and tweets, making improving literacy skills harder. I observe some of my students can't spell the term right because of the way of how we communicate or how we chat. Sometimes we use using your messenger or any chat software or application. There's a different jargons, and sometimes we create a millennial terms, which is not some are having a hard time to comprehend. Okay, that's why some of our students having difficulty on how to spell the term right because we are exposed too much with ICT, particularly with our mobile phones when we communicate or chat with our friends or colleagues. Second is addiction to computer game. Sometimes if ICT brings positive impact, it has a drawbacks. One of which is the addiction, not only to computer games. Now, some of my students are having are addicted to mobile games. Even in now, many students are hooked in Axie Infinity, um, Valorant. These are popular games that affects their studies and behavior. Uh, Next is wasting of time in tweets, chat, and pinging. Because of too much exposure to technology, ICT, sometimes most of us experience lack of sleep or headache. On our part, we lack of sleep because of the bulk of tasks or works assigned to us. And we resort to computers to perform this assignment or clerical works. Some of the students loss of concentration in class because of mobile phones. That's why during on-site, I ask my students to turn off their mobile phone to concentrate. But now, after the pandemic, still we use this mobile phone for to access information, particularly the learning task or activity uh, posted in our classroom, in particularly in the Google Classroom. Next, the neck and lower back pain. Aside from that, we have the so-called carpal tunnel syndrome or the CTS. Carpal tunnel syndrome class is a common condition that causes numbness, tingling, and pain in the hand and forearm. The condition occurs when one of the major nerves to the hand, particularly the median nerve, is squeezed or compressed as it travels to the wrist. In most patients, this syndrome gets worse over time. If untreated for too long, it can lead to permanent dysfunction of the hand, including loss of sensation in the fingers and weakness. And one of this is the reason is through use of mobile phones or exposed to these gadgets or devices. Next is we have the CBS or the computer vision syndrome. Uh, it is also referred to as a digital eye strain. I experienced this when I exposed to the monitor of the computer for such a long time. Uh, it describes a group of eye and vision related problems that result to, as I've said, from prolonged computer, tablet, e-reader, and cell phone use. Many individuals experience eye discomfort and vision problems when viewing digital screens for extended periods. The level of discomfort class appears to increase with the amount of digital screen use. And the last one is to reduce personal interaction. So, um, uh, I think some of us experienced this in our homes, or not just in our homes, but in some areas, wherein every time we will be having a meal, a dinner, most of my sisters or brother are still using their mobile phones while we are in the middle of a dinner or lunch. So it reduces personal interaction in the family, sometimes to your peers and colleagues, when some of us are hooked or concentrated in the use of mobile phones and other forms of devices. Neglecting the drawbacks, the above discussion indicates that ICT, or information and communication technology, is the lifeblood of modern research upon which depends our economical structure, standard of living, and progress. So, to give you the summary or our conclusion, ICTs can be used for teaching, learning, and administration of schools. Adoption and use of ICTs have a positive impact on education. Every school adopt the use of ICTs to improve the educational system. Students equipped with digital skills will grow up into a knowledge literate society, equipped with skills to manage 21st century economy globally, and be relevant in other parts of the world. So here's the bibliography or my references for this material. So that's how I end my presentation. Okay, class, that's how I end the presentation. But before we end this video, kindly answer the two sets of questions that I prepared based on the video description by simply comment down below your insights or reaction. Um, um, Again, thank you for listening and watching this video. And as what I always say, class, keep safe always.
Zombie apocalypse.